The cost of the individual items also does have a lot to do with it. I mean, because when you have an articulated action figure, fully painted, detailed articulation action figure, you know, it may not take up a lot of space, but actually represents a significant amount of cost.
Are you planning on making the whole band?
I don't know if we've got the whole band on the actual roster right now. I'm not sure how many lines they've actually planned out. Chuck Tricera, the president, does a lot of the line planning. He wasn't able to make it here today, but I know that we're going to keep going with it as long as the support is there. We've got at least 2 or 3 waves of 2 and 3 packs planned out. I'm 95% sure Dr. Teeth is on that list, but I don't know about Janice if we'll be able to. But we have no reason to stop unless there is basically the lines just not selling. But I don't foresee that being a problem. So hopefully we'll keep going as long as Palisades did. There's a lot of people. I'm a fan of Palisades did what Palisades did. These figures are different scale, and they're not going to be compatible with what Palisades did, but they'll be compatible with a lot of others will. So hopefully that's something people like. So I think I saw a hand up over here. Yes, sir. The old ones of. Oh, the classic Batman? Well, the licenses we have are for Batman animated series, which did come out in the early 90s. Batman Classic TV series, which is 1966, and Gotham. So we actually don't do much modern, non-anime style Batman, any non-animated Batman product. In terms of the comic book stuff, it's not part of our license. We have to talk to different companies about seeing what is available to us. So there's other companies that do some comic-based stuff. And it's not something that's available to us right now, but it might be something that we would have access to in the future. You know, my boss, Chuck Tricera, the president of the company, is a huge Batman fan, and Spider-Man fan, but he's happy to work on anything Batman that they're willing to let us work on. So really it's just a question of getting a lot of people involved in Batman right now. There always have been, so we're not as big a company as some companies. We're still fairly small. We do a lot of stuff. Probably have 2 dozen licenses at any given time, but we're still you know, not a Mattel or a Hasbro. For a character like Batman, who's everybody loves, you know, we can only have access to certain portions of his entire world of stuff. But hopefully we get to do something that you like sometimes. You like anime stuff? No? How about Gotham? You watch Gotham? No? Well, maybe a little too mature for you. I've seen other kids who watch Gotham. They've been asking me about Gotham. I was just checking. Maybe we got some cool stuff coming up. Yes, sir.
This is actually for the sculptors.
Oh, sure, please.
Typically, like, do you work on, like, each one of you, like, let's say Gene, do you work on a particular line, and like Eli, you work on another line, or do you like input together, I guess, on similar?
Yeah, it's kind of generally they'll kind of contract you to do specific lines or waves of figures because they want a stylistic continuity to a particular way. Part of it is when they get contractors that they like, then they'll try to hook them in for a series of work so that it blocks out your time, so that they can kind of monopolize your abilities for their ways. So, like the stuff that I've been doing for years for Diamond's been like Universal Monsters. I picked that up after like maybe like wave 2. I took it over, and then I went through like all the Monsters stuff. Continued with Universal, and like the Batman stuff, I'm basically doing all the banks and all the busts. So they kind of give you, basically it's a continuity thing. And then if they have a project that comes in and they gotta move it real quick, like a movie type thing, sometimes you can't put one guy on it. Say it takes me a few weeks per sculpt, then if it's gonna take me a few months to do a job, pull through it has to match up with the release time of the movie, then they'll get a bunch of guys and then we just kind of jam the whole thing, you know. And then also they'll pick different guys that will also consult on things to help them maintain continuity when there's a disparate, you know, array of guys working. So.
And Eli has done all of the Walking Dead Final Bands and all of Alien and Predator stuff.
Yeah, most of the Alien stuff I've done. And so far, all 2 Predator bags.
Well, I played the children's off. I mean, I guess Gene actually did help Alien, right?
Yes, you did the Queen.
Yeah, basically, the guy we work for, Chuck, he allows us an awful lot of latitude as far as like if we want to jump on particular characters here and there. He tries to match guys with their jobs and stuff they really want to do. The first Batman stuff I ever saw was when I was 2 years old. The show came on in '66, the original Batman show. So that was one. As soon as they told me that they were getting it, I wanted to do it. But then I've always wanted to kind of dig into some of the alien stuff because I worked with Eager on some of the McFarlane stuff. So there was like one open piece in the alien line which Eli's mostly been handling, so they gave me the queen to do just so I could get my paws into some of that stuff.
No hard feelings there, right?
Nope. It's been in the industry much longer than I have.
Were there any questions for Mr. Higgins? Yes, sir.
When you design your directional episode, or do you actually look at past footage, or do you take from, since you get different licenses, other companies might have their own layout, their own design based on like the 70s or 60s. Do you use some of those designs, or do you start doing completely from scratch and do it based on the film, or?
Well, if we did existing people like Thor, we tried to make his dead copy. Oh, sorry. When we did an existing people like Thor, we tried to make it a dead copy of Vigo. As close as we could get, say, everyone would say, well, we do something like Deadpool, we have to think, well, what would Vigo have done? And Vigo kind of stripped away detail and went to a simple, clean look. But then when you do a more modern version, like we're doing a modern Captain America, you want to fix what was done wrong. Where old licensors used to just throw out details, paint it in, like change it. We try to go back over everybody else did. We always look at what all of the different companies did and try to figure out what was the best parts that we could fit in. What would we as big fanboys want?
Yes, sir, Matt.
Sculpts you have done in the past couple of years, and what's the rough time frame on going concepts to production?
Some stuff, it kind of depends on what elements come into it, as far as sometimes you're dealing with not only a property, but the licensors involved, the actors, sometimes the directors. We have things that sometimes take a lot longer because there are a lot of other people that have to be happy with the final product before we even go into paint, before we even go into production. That's why you see different things that sort of are announced and then they sort of slip back in the schedule. But generally speaking, it tends to be the things that are oriented towards TV shows and movies because of all those different elements that you have to work in there. There's so many people to please. So probably the toughest thing I've worked on in the last few years, and what's even tougher about it, so close to my heart, is the 66 Batman stuff. Because the costumes are very complex, and the portraits are always, if you're just kind of interpreting an artist's work from a comic book, you have some leeway because I'm taking a flat image and I have to make it 3D. So to a degree, there's going to be an element. I always look at the sculptor as kind of the fifth beagle. Like you have your penciler and inker and colorist, and you got the writer. The sculptor's the guy that comes at the end. It's kind of the sax player.
I'd say the hardest thing I've done recently was The Predator. Even though it was something I was very thrilled to work on, it was very challenging. Apparently, it's not one of those jobs you can fake. I had to make sure it had the very same build of the actor who played him, because this couldn't be a variant of the character. It had to be the creature from the very first movie. So, so first I had to make sure, because if one thing it was off on it, I almost had to start the whole thing all over again. So, but I was very happy with the end result, and more importantly, so the clients, and so forth. The weapons were even more trickier because when you study my history, that whole thing was kind of just designed on a whim, and then to kind of recreate that, like on a professional level, was it does give you one run for the money. I'd say the second thing that was a challenge was doing Rick and Michonne from the Walking Dead comic book. Well, even though for the most part they've been only shown in 2D, and then to three-dimensionalize them was very tricky, especially for a man who's throughout most of the story has like a beard and like long hair covering like most of his face.
Yes, and one more question, then we'll get back to the presentation.
Are there plans for Eartha Kitt version of Catwoman?
We can't really say specifically what we have planned, but basically you can kind of see from, I think I've done 9 or 10 things so far, and as long as we can keep selling them, we're going to hit as much of that rogues gallery as we can. So whether we handle her as some sort of variation on the existing one, or take her as an individual one, it's kind of up in the air. Basically, everything we do is predicated on sales, unfortunately. But so far, the line's doing really well in terms of loss to the banks and the statues and things. So probably a good chance of it. I mean, I think our licensing covers the TV show, but not the movie. So any of the stuff from the movie would be a whole different ball of wax we have to get into.
So we plan to keep going as far as we can go with it, as long as the sales are there. I think we've gotten to some more obscure characters lately. If you want to call them pure Egghead and Mr. Freeze, he's not a sure character, but he's not the biggest Batman classic TV villain. But Batgirl's next, so we expect that to do pretty well. And these other villains we talked about are also big ones from the show. So hopefully we can keep going for a while more.
Yeah, basically, I have a whole pile in the works right now. So as long as these guys keep moving, then I'll follow through to the end.
I'll get back to some more questions in just a minute. I'll try to get through the rest of this as quickly as possible so we can draw some raffle tickets. Everybody can have your tickets. So the Nightmare Before Christmas, our first series of select action figures actually hits a week from Wednesday, October 21st. These are the figures with the deluxe diorama bases. Oogie doesn't have a deluxe diorama base. He's actually pretty big himself. He does have a removable face, so you can see the bugs inside. But these are fully articulated. Those are full-size dioramas. Series 2 and 3 are in the works. I don't think we're going to have Series 2 out for Christmas, like we originally hoped, but sometime in 2016 we'll have Series 2 with the Mayor and I believe Santa Jack. I'm not 100% sure on that. But we have a dozen more designs and things that we're going to be releasing over the next year or two. The Coffin dolls have started to ship, I believe. There's currently 2 exclusive faces at Hot Topic. I think there's a Sally with a sidelong glance, and I believe Jack, I forget what Jack's expression is, but it's different from the 2 you see here. The 2 in the center are from the 2-pack. It's a double size coffin, and the inset headshots are from the single release. And these should all be coming out in the next, I think within the next month. Not sure if they'll all make it in time for Halloween, but fingers crossed. And we've already solicited Pajama Jack and Pumpkin King, and next up will be Santa Jack. Those will most likely be 2016 releases. Godzilla, we're continuing line of banks. The 1974 Godzilla hits next Wednesday, followed by Rodan and then Jaguar. And we also have the naked Godzilla pizza cutter that's going to come out pretty soon. My Little Pony, we are actually still, Rainbow Dash excited. These 3 are getting very close to release. I believe we're trying to have all 3 of these out by the end of the year. And we're also working through approvals on the next batch. And we got to get them exactly right. I believe next one after this is, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. I'll have to remember, but we do have 3 more designs in the works. But these are the next 3. Plants vs. Zombies. On the left is our older figures. We recently reissued them with additional accessories in the select format. The Yeti is going to be a deluxe select figure. Limited posability, but in scale to the zombies are going to be coming out, I believe, in the next month or 2. And if you were at the booth, you might have seen our next assortment. We're going to have the biologist with Sunflower, the goalie zombie with the toxic bee, and you're going to have a chomper with additional accessories, and you're going to have the welder zombie with additional accessories. So those will be, I think those will be, I'm not sure if those are select, I believe they are select X size, those are the largest select pack. And those will be at 2016 release. I think we're on the verge of soliciting fairly soon. Aliens, you can see here our cookie jar on the left, which you can see it was might see the more final version display case. The Gene's alien green vinyl bust bank there on the right. The Alien Queen's in early 2016. Universal Monsters should be hitting stores this November. This is the next series. We're still pinning down next year's releases. See exactly how we're going to do, what that's going to look like. But Wolfman, Mummy, and our original creation, Lucy Western one. So I showed a steampunk vampire hunter version of the Dracula novel character, designed and sculpted by Gene. The black and white box set, I believe, will also be shipping in the next 2 weeks. So this is black and white versions of previously released Toys R Us exclusives. You may have seen our Femme Fatales Cassie Hack from Hack Slash in stores. Tarot and Raven Hex will be coming up next. And those are the PVC statues, 9-inch tall statues. It's in those places. There's also an exclusive variant of Cassie Hack that's going to be available at Action Figure Express afterwards. There you can see the Predator banks sculpted by Eli, and also the I believe Entertainment Earth exclusive. I thought I knew this one, and now I'm hesitant on it, but I believe it's the Entertainment Earth exclusive variant, the thermal vision Predator. The thermal vision, I believe, is I believe this Predator is getting pretty close to release into this year. Thermal vision variant might be around the same time, might be a little. And we also have a masked Predator on display in the case, which is again a little problem. Our Star Trek Wharf Bank ships in the next 2 weeks. I don't know if this Wednesday or next Wednesday, but very soon. Our Femme Fatales Troy, I believe, is still in early 2016 release, and we're going to be soliciting soon our Femme Fatales War Queen, and she will have a removable head and torso. So her maintenance sequence, where she lifts out of her body. Our next Star Trek ship is going to be the London Bird of Prey. Before that, we're going to have a couple of reissues. This is still a 2016 item, a little further on in 2016, but the NX-01 should be coming out probably around the end of the year, if not the beginning of 2016. And we're very close to releasing our new original series Enterprise, which has new lights and sounds. See some of the video of those sounds on our YouTube channel. We're going to be reissuing all of our Star Trek retro figures. I say almost. I think there might be a couple that will not be reissued, but most of them will be reissued for the 50th anniversary of 2016. Kirk and Klingon, our first ones, Spock and Khan, Sulu and the Gorn, and this show we debuted our new Chiron, who has the colors reversed from the episode Let This Be Your Battlefield. So this is the black is on the right, and the white is on the left, is of course the previous version. Watch the episode if you don't understand. It's very subtle, portable and very. And on the right there, you see our security officer. There will be some variations in security officer in cases. Some will have black hair, some will have brown hair. Some will have the officer piping on the sleeves, and some will not. So there are actually 4 different versions of that you're going to get. They will be randomly packed in each case. Back to the Future, we've got a lot of stuff upcoming. The Monopoly is actually out now, but the bottle opener and the Frosty Time Machine and the tumblers, they should all be out before the end of the year. And we're also going to be bringing back our license plate replica. We're supposed to be more on that still. Moving on, our next Walking Dead Primal Bank will be Negan with Lucille. So that's really a twofer. I think we'll be soliciting this in the next month or so, and we'll get the pre-order for 2016. Here you can see two different licenses. This is our Cthulhu band on the left. We previously did a painted version. This one is going to be glow in the dark. Should be out in 2016, I believe. And the X-Files mini-mates. These are 4-inch vinyl figures. They like the podcast pals for Kevin Smith. They do have the articulated neck, but otherwise they're static vinyl figures. These will be out in early 2016. Hopefully while the show is still there in the series. And I'm going to wrap things up. Yes, I am with our Ghostbusters. The first 3 select action figures we were aiming for the end of this year. It looks like we finally figured some stuff out with the pack and diorama pieces. Might edge into early 2016, but each of these figures is going to come with a diorama piece, which I will show you some information on in a bit. And you've seen it in the case upstairs. There will be a series of 15 figures that will come out over the next couple of years. Series of 3, 5 different series. This is the first one. The second one will be Peter, Egon, and Dana. And then there will be additional characters like Walter Peck, Gozer. We're going to have Slimer. We're going to have a couple of ghosts. We're going to have 2 variants of the Ghostbusters, not 4, just 2. We'll have a Ray, post-work Ray, and there will be a variant of Peter that we're still working on. And the Terror Dog will be one of them. She will have interchangeable forms. You can make it either blue or Vince Clortho. And each figure will come with a part of our Ghostbusters rooftop diorama. This is going to be a pretty big thing. If you saw in the case, it's bigger than the top of this podium. It's a pretty large piece. The Terror Dog is a little big, so he's not going to come with a piece of the doors that fit behind the entryway here. But it's going to be pretty big when all said and done. You can probably fit all 15 figures on it, actually, by the end of the day. So in a couple of years, you're going to have this. It's going to take, it's bigger than a shelf size, so you're going to start thinking about where it's going to go. But now we've got this all straightened out, we're going to be assisting more series on a more regular basis. We just have to straighten out some of this stuff before we move forward with the next series. All the figures are mostly, except for the last 2. We were originally going to do 12, we expanded to 15. All the figures except for those last 2 we added are pretty much done and approved, so nothing's really holding us up except for figuring out exactly who's going to come in what. Now it's all going to fit in that package. We also have some more Ghostbusters kitchen items coming up, the Happy Steak bottle opener, the slime bottle opener, the unslimed pizza cutter, we have a slime version of that in San Diego, and then we bring back our Slimer bank and we glow in the dark version. And I'm pleased to announce that we will be making merchandise based on the 2016 Ghostbusters. So I'm very excited about this movie. I hope everybody else is, and we're going to be seeing a lot of stuff. Not action figures like the select action figures, but other merchandise for the Ghostbusters will be coming out. So keep an eye out for that. I look forward to announcing some stuff. We're going to have, I'm sure, a lot of this stuff that I've been talking about on display here in the Troy Fair in February. So the internet will come alive for that. And that is the end of my slide presentation. So we can go back to the Q&A portion for a few minutes, and then we can do a referral. So I'll just do that a bit. Why not? Questions? Yes, sir. Right.
Marvel Select, any chance for an Age of Ultron Hulkbuster?
Our Age of Ultron license, like all of our Marvel movie licenses, is finite. We generally get those licenses for about a year. Once you factor in all the development and getting the reference, which is pretty much when the starting gun goes off, and that's pretty much the time we have to get the figures out in the market. So once that's done, we're pretty much moved on to the next movie, because we got to get ready for Cap 3 or Ragnarok or what have you. So we're working on stuff for future movies at this point, not planning to bring it back. We opted to do a comic Hulkbuster, because honestly, if we did that Hulkbuster in scale with our figures, it probably would have been, I don't know if we would have been able to make it as the Marvel Select figure, packaging, cost, price, I don't think we would have been able to make that work. And we do have some limitations and restrictions when it comes to that stuff. So I don't even know if it would have been possible if we had it instead. So we went with a more human-sized in terms of not being, our boss had a very clear vision how big he wanted the comic card follow-ups to be, in terms of it being something that he could operate, as opposed to something that Tony Stark could sit all up and can operate the arms and legs. He wanted it to be something that was not product like that, product more like an exosuit. So hopefully people like that Disney sort of all us are going to be, I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of people probably came out pretty good, and it actually ended up not being too much, barely smaller than the Toyota's Holocaust. But I don't know if we were able to do it at the actual full in-scale size that it really was. Yes, sir.
Will you ever be able to do the new 52 of DC?
I think that harkens back to the comic question before about new Batman. I don't think we would be, right now we don't have the comic book license for DC Comics. We're doing the animated series, we're doing TV stuff. The comics stuff is, a lot of people like doing comic books, and we're one of them who like to, but right now we're not, that's not part of our license. It's just Gotham, Batman 1966 TV series, and the animated series. But, fingers crossed someday in the future. We never say never, not say always. People hate it when we say that, but we say never say never, because we never know what's going to happen. Yes, sir.
Do you ever plan to make build figures inside of the old DC Batman line, such as Killer Croc or Bane?
In the Batman animated series, the cartoon movie?
Yeah.
You know, I actually haven't seen Killer Croc on our line plan, but now that I think about that is one that I would be surprised it's not on. Bane is, you are talking about the product we're making, like the busts and that sort of thing, right? There is actually a Bane on display in our display case. It just wasn't in the slide presentation. Scarecrow, I believe I've seen work in progress for and back as well, but I do not know if I've seen Killer Croc, but I would not be surprised if he was on our line plan somewhere. We have a lot of fans who do. Yes, sir.
You recently reissued like Ultimate Iron Man and Ultimate Hulk. Is there a chance to reissue like Ultimate Thor? Because it's been a while.
I think there's a possibility for most of the older characters to be released. It's just a question of whether we have the tooling for them and whether we have room in a production schedule, the other new stuff we have to do. And also, we slide it in like piece of place of another one that we're reissuing that maybe sales has a standing order for something that retailers are asking for. So anything's possible. It's just Ultimate Thor not being as much of a player in the Marvel universe and just kind of hurt his chances a little tiny bit, but Ultimate Iron Man is a great figure, and so is Ultimate Thor. So hopefully, I keep asking DST, and I'm sure that we'll keep going to sales and saying certain big old we can bring back. If something sales slows down, yes, you're in front.
When it comes to upcoming films like this Ghostbusters and Captain America 3, how much time in advance do you get to start working on it because the stuff isn't prepared yet? They don't know how things are going to look. How much time do you have to work on it? I guess it takes lots of time to get it ready as the movie comes out.
Yeah, the sculpting is certainly, Gene was talking about how long it takes to turn something around in terms of a sculpt. That might be just a bust scene you were talking about, or like a full-size figure you were talking about.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on, like you said, how much of it they have done ahead of time. So sometimes, if we have a schedule where we have to put product out at the same time as the movie comes out, which is ideal because, like if you go to a movie and it's awesome and it kills their first weekend, it does great, then we have a giant window that we can have our product hit the shelves at. But if the movie tanks like the first weekend and our product hits that weekend, maybe people will still be psyched in the lead up to the movie. Oh, I can't wait to get this, blah, 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 Fantastic Four's gonna be great. And then they see the movie and then sees the movie, and if you got product that's tying in, the next week nobody's lining up in Toys R Us to pick up the toys or the comics. Well, generally, if we're doing an action figure, we gotta be at least 9 months in advance, ideally. Ideally, you want to be like a year out because you still, like with a movie especially, you gotta go through the director and the studio, like for a Marvel movie, Marvel, and sometimes all the actors. And those people are all spread out on all sorts of different projects, so you may not be able to get that person to weigh in on it for months, so you need a lot of lead time. And it's not to say that you can't do it quicker, but on properties like that, you need a lot of lead time. Otherwise, what ends up happening, we deliver late, or Diamond does, and then Toys R Us gets PO'd, so these guys get penalized for delivering late, or you lose your shelf space. So there's a lot of aspects that come into play. So the longer the better. Ideally, though, you need about 9 months to produce the figure.
We have some special circumstances too in that we go through previews, so we also have to solicit the figures to retailers, and then in most cases we have to wait for orders. Although some of them are like stuff continues, estimate go ahead, but so we have to get it finished and approved and ready to show, and then we show it, and then we have to wait a certain period of time to get stuff from manufacturing. And also we also have to wait on a reference for things that other contract companies might not need, like diagrams. We use know environments like that. And they have, all right, here's your turnarounds to create characters, but we don't need to know what, can you send me a scene, send me a picture of what this is going to look like, this device, this rock coordination, and sometimes that can be, that's good to select. It's actually what you consider in a couple of cases, how much of that I apologize, I don't know if I'm looking at your now. Yes, Yusuf. Oh, Miss, I'm sorry. I thought you were Russian. Go ahead.
It's a question for the artist. When doing something such as the Assistant Batman animated, which is both 2D and highly stylized, do you find that is that a challenge, or that it's easier when it's more stylized than that?
Are you guys working on anything really stylized like that right now? I'm trying to, or I guess in the past.
I haven't worked on, I did some Batman animated stuff like maybe 15 years ago for like creepy crawlers, where we were taking and doing them as reliefs to go into the molds. And anytime you got to take something off of 3D, well, off of animated art, even though you see the creature or the character moving around in frame, so ideally there's a turnaround of that character, there tends not to be like necessarily a profile that matches the 3/4 view, that matches your front view. It tends to morph a little bit as it moves. It's a little different now when they're doing CGI animated movies where they actually have a maquette that's been sculpted either digitally or traditionally, and then they scan that in where it has a legitimate circumference. But if you're taking something like the Batman animated, where a lot like other Warner Brothers characters and like Disney stuff, the characters sort of stretch and morph as they move, so they may not relate. So you have to find sort of an idealized representation of what you think that geometry is when you have to actually do it in a form where people can take it and turn it. And that's where you run into conflicts with how the licensing art director might look at it and not agree with your interpretation of a profile or something. And then 9 times out of 10, those guys never understand how you have to produce it for certain types of manufacturing. If you're doing an action figure, that's a different style of interpretive sculpting than if you're doing vinyl bank, than if you're doing like some sort of a hard plastic shell that's going to go on a cup or something like that. So there's a lot of elements that go into it, and you have to interpret for mechanical process as well as take all those different unrelated views sometimes and still maintain the look of the character. So, what was the question? Yes.
Yes and no.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mitchell.
About Marvel Select again, and despite the Fantastic Four film, we still want some characters of the classic image of Fantastic Four. We have just the Thing and Doctor Doom and the Silver Surfer. Why is it so difficult for you to continue this family? I know it's not on the next plans, but is there a chance in a medium future for us to see that?
It's a medium future.
It's up to you.
Hopefully we'll be doing this line for a long time, so, again, we never say never, but I think, I don't know what kept us from doing more back when we first did the thing in terms of making other characters in the Fantastic Four.
Is it a question of licensing or?
Now there are some licensing questions, but I don't know what may have been going on back then that we didn't make at the time. Hopefully once some licensing issues are resolved, we can move on to do more stuff, but I don't think I can handle that. We'll revisit it as soon as we can. I'm sure once the doors open, there'll be a floodgate of stuff for you to enjoy. There or some other means. Did you have your hand up?
Oh, yeah. I know that Marvel was talking about going all out for Captain America, but I wanted to know, are you guys going to be doing anything with the Captain America? Because I haven't seen this outside of
Yeah, we did do the mini-mate. I don't think we have any plans right now, specifically on the books for that particular version of Captain America. I love it myself personally. I'm hoping that it sticks around for a long time. I don't know if we have any question about the longevity of the character. I mean, certainly many people out there would say, I can't believe you made Sam Wilson Captain America and you haven't made this character who's been around for 50 years. I'd love to hear just a basic Falcon, but we were excited to be one of the only people who did a movie Falcon for the last Captain Week. So.
I just thought that you might say the anniversary, because I know because he is that character now, I thought that might just the anniversary.
The anniversary this is coming. This coming year. In addition to movie product that are not involved Captain America, there may also be some comic book product that are not involved Captain America. So hopefully there's some Captain America stuff that Captain America fans dig for the anniversary, but right now Sam Wilson's not part of that. But I'm hoping that eventually to make him either as Captain America or Falcon. I'm a big fan of the character. One of my first comics was Falcon in the green and yellow costume, fighting the cap against Grey Gargoyle. Three of my favorite characters. Yes, Rick Grimes in the back.
Yeah, are you going to do any more Marvel zombie mini-mates?
I think if sales of the third set do okay, which is coming out next week. Yeah, I think they come out next week. Then yeah, I think we'll probably do more. Another one next year. We really seem to be doing okay. So we're sold out of the last two sets. So hopefully that's something that we can continue. I like them. Hopefully other people like it as well. Let me get some. Is everybody over here on one? Oh, I got 5 minutes left. So let's take one more question. You already got a question, but I don't see your hand. So what's your second question?
I was going to ask about the Ultimate Universe in general. We haven't seen too many figures such as Ultimate Spider-Man or anything like that so far. Do you plan to make more of these figures?
For action figures?
Yes.
Like the select style action figures? Actually, Ultimate Spider-Man was our very first action figure. It wasn't Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man, it was still Peter Parker back at that time. That was when he was pretty new, actually. This was in 2002. So we did Ultimate Spider-Man, we did Ultimate Iron Man, we did Ultimate Thor, we did Ultimate Captain America, World War II style Ultimate Captain America, Ultimate Venom. We did a lot of Ultimate Marvel stuff back in the day. Unfortunately, now the Ultimate Universe has been destroyed. I don't know how much of that you're going to see. Miles Morales is in the 616 though now, so we can call it that. Do we still call it the 616? Now that Miles Morales is part of the Avengers, anything is game. Our boss is a big Spider-Man fan. We've made a couple of minis so far of Miles Morales, and hopefully that eventually leads to it's like action figure. I love it. I just don't know if he's specifically on the plans right now. You can ask me a question afterwards, but I'm going to do the drawing so don't kick us out for making away all the stuff.